If you were to meet 30-year-old war veteran Jamie Davis, you'd most likely have thought he was a happy husband and an adoring father. But behind the smile, Jamie was struggling with crippling PTSD.
Well, after serving in Afghanistan as a member of the armed forces, Jamie battled with his mental health, and in January of this year, he was tragically found dead. It's believed he took his own life.
Well, his wife and mother of his two sons, Alicia, is now calling for greater support for war veterans, and she took to social media to share this heartbreaking video.
My husband, Jamie Davis, was in 4 Rifles. He served in Iraq and Afghanistan. He suffered severely with PTSD. He saw no other way out other than to take his own life. I'm hoping that somebody with PTSD sees this and it makes them pick up the phone and contact all these, at least one of these amazing charities that have been set up by veterans.
Well, Alicia joins us now, and this is not going to be an easy chat by any stretch. No. This is all very raw. This has only happened very, very recently and is, of course, still very, very painful for you. And the reason that you are here is because solely you are doing this to make a difference. And if you could help save another life of another veteran out there, then this will all be worthwhile. Yeah. Tell us what he was like. You met him, didn't you? He was 18, you were 22. Yeah. You were engaged within a month. I mean, this was whirlwind love. Yeah. You were pregnant with your first child within the year. What kind of a man was he?
He was just a massive teddy bear. He was the sort of man that he'd walk in and light up a room with his smile. He had the cheesiest smile ever, but he would go out of his way to help anybody. Mm-hmm. Even if you came knocking on our door, he didn't know who you were. I'd be like, oh, come in, have a cup of tea, we'd make you cake. And he was just
a good man.
A good man. There's no other way of putting it other than he was just... They always say that it's the good ones that are taken, and it is true. He was a good one that was taken.
And so, did you talk about his military life? Did you discuss that? Did he talk about it with you?
Well, when I first met him, he said he was an underwater fireman. So, but he talked a lot about being in the army. There were things that he couldn't talk about for obvious reasons, but I knew what he was doing. And when he was out in Afghanistan, I didn't know he was a Valor man. He rang me up going, oh, yeah, by the way, honey, there's a video that's been done. I'm a Valor man. Nice to speak to you. I love you. See you later.
So explain what that actually means.
Basically, he would have a device that would scan for explosives in the ground. So he would be the tip of the spear of the men that were going anywhere.
They would advance in a V?
Yeah, he would... Basically, it meant any man that was in there first, it would be Jamie, it would be the Valor man, because he would be scanning to see if there were any explosives in the ground for all the troops that were behind him, all the men and women.
So hugely stressful, obviously, life-threatening job that he's doing, as they all do. They know what they're getting into. However, there was kind of many incidents, probably some you don't know about, but there were sort of these 3 main points. And there was, the first one that happened was this hand-detonated bomb, wasn't there? And there's... Yeah. One of his friends was severely hurt and injured during. So just explain what happened there.
Well, he wouldn't speak much about it, but I could kind of get the gist of what happens in his nightmares when he was screaming. And basically, he was walking forward. Next thing he knows, he's lying on his back, turns round, says, oh, my God, where's Fergie? Where's Fergie? Can't see him. And he'd just see this pile of rubble, see this, basically the rucksack that he had on, pulled it out with one of his other mates, and it was Fergie there with both his legs missing, Jamie and this other soldier tourniqueted his legs, which is basically where they put a strap around his leg to stop the blood flow. And both these men saved his life. And
he'd also got severe head injuries as well, hadn't he? So a horrific thing for anyone to see. And then he had 2 weeks R&R and then went back out. And whilst he was home with you for those 2 weeks, his best friend who had taken over his position, he got back and found out that he'd been shot and killed, which had a profound effect on Jamie, didn't it? And then in March 2010, he came under fire and was shot 3 times.
Well, he was shot at and a bullet hit the ground, split. Bit went into his arm, into his knee, and I call it Forrest Gump. He got a bit in his butt cheek.
Yeah, he was hit by shrapnel from the bullets that had been fired. And so when he came back, you say that the whole squadron had been traumatised by what they'd seen.
Yeah.
Which is, unsurprising. No human being, and they're protecting us. We're enormously proud of them, but you can't imagine what it is that they actually go through. When they came back, was he offered any support? Were any of them offered support?
Not that I'm aware of. He said that they gave him this sheet of paper to say, do you have any nightmares? Do you have any problems? Well, at that point, you're going to be like, nah, I'm fine, I'm OK, it's all right, I'll talk to people about it. The problem is the minute you say you got PTSD, it's because he wanted to go further through the army, he wanted to join the SBS, that was something he always wanted to do. He knew the minute he had that anywhere on his paperwork, it would stop him from doing a lot of things.
So he wouldn't be able to progress with his career.
Yeah.
So you're kind of in this catch-22 situation. You want the help, but you don't want to damage your career.
Yeah.
He returned a very different man to the one that had left. And just explain sort of social situations. I mean, he's at home, he's safe, and yet his behaviour was very different. He was on high alert all the time.
Yeah.
So in crowded areas, what would he do?
He'd be really nervous. He'd have his back to walls if we went anywhere. Children that had those little firecrackers when you throw them on the ground, that happened and he hit the floor and he was an absolute mess. He just, fire alarms, even car alarms would set him off, and because of the job that he did, any disturbed ground or anything like that, even that had just been dug up, he would purposely cross a road to walk. Because he was in such a high dangerous position for 7 months, it's difficult to bring yourself back from that.
Well, it progressively got worse and worse.
Yeah.
Affecting him in every way. He went to the NHS, he got help, but he'd got other things he needed to do. Missed one appointment and therefore had to, you start all over again. You've essentially been chucked out of the treatment. What surprised me also is that he went to the British Legion and he asked them for help. And what did they say?
He rang up over the phone saying, I need help, for Jamie to turn around and say that he needed help, went against everything for him because he was always helping others first. So for him to turn around and make that first step went completely against everything he believed, because he felt he was being selfish, asking for help rather than helping others. And when he rang them up, they said, well, you can find all this, you can find information on Google. Just put in PTSD and you can find local places. But because he had dyslexia, he struggled to find those sort of things. And it just, in the end, he turned around and said, well, what's the point? He said, I'm trying to get help. And
no one's helping.
Yeah, nobody's helping me.
There were other pressures too. I mean, complications in your pregnancy. You have got a neurological condition. So therefore you're registered disabled. So he was kind of the main breadwinner in the family.
Yeah.
Your eldest son has autism. Regardless of any of this, though, at that point, you never thought he would leave you?
No. If you speak to anybody, even if you met him for 5 minutes, his boys were everything to him. And he always said that he could never do that to them because it would...
It's okay.
He said, what would he... How would they be...
Okay.
Thank you. How would he... He just said it was selfish because then he'd leave a world of hurt. It wouldn't help the situation. So for him to do that meant that he must have been hurting so much because he wasn't that sort of man. We had over 400 people turn up to his funeral and his wake. All of them said he was the last person ever they would have thought to do that because he was like Robin Williams. He would always make people laugh, always try and see the best in people and always put his pain to the back. It would always be everybody first. And for him to have done that just shows how desperate it was. And there are men and women out there now that are suffering with it. I mean, there was another soldier who took his life just a month after Jamie.
Oh, gosh.
And I think it's something like 16 soldiers have taken their lives since January.
So what needs to be done? I mean, you're living this. This is your life.
Yeah.
You are living this now. You are living with the fallout. You've had to explain to your two sons what happened to their father.
Yeah.
I mean, the impact of that on them as young boys going on to be men.
Yeah.
What happens now? What needs to change? What could have made the difference here?
It should have been started within. I'm not going to blame anybody. It's the government, it's the army. They all need to combine and say, right, OK, let's look at all these men and women that have been in this situation. It's like the programme that Ross Kemp did, which was fantastic, looked at homeless vets. And the horrible thing is that if a veteran does pass away, or if they don't put on the death certificate that they were a veteran, it doesn't get counted. They just go, oh, OK, that was another person. There's so many men and women that need help.
The other thing also, listening to your story, is that the attitude has to change about servicemen and women being able to come forward. Because you've said repeatedly that at any point, if you say, do you know what, I'm suffering, I believe I may have PTSD, or I could have the beginnings of mental health issues here, then that could be seen as a black mark on your career.
Yeah, that needs to change.
And that in itself, that will prevent you from coming forward to get help.
Even outside of the army, he said to me, if I get that put on my record, as I might not be able to work at schools, I might not be able to do certain jobs, I said it's something that you shouldn't be ashamed of, because it's OK not to be OK.
Yeah.
Because PTSD comes in all sorts of forms. Anybody can sort of suffer with it. But when you're put in a situation like that, you should be looked after.
Yeah.
And
how are the boys?
My eldest has autism, so it's very black and white for him. He's like, Daddy's gone. He'd want me to be happy, so I'm OK. My youngest, it breaks my heart every time I see him, because he's typical blonde-haired, blue-eyed little boy, where he would be smiling away, playing away, and he didn't speak for almost 3 days after I told him, and he refused to go swimming, burst out crying, because he said, that's something I did with Daddy, I don't want to go against what he loved doing, and it's...
And are you getting help for them?
Yeah, the school has been fantastic. They've been looking after him. They've been having water pistol fights during lunchtime and just trying to make them smile and keep them going. And they've got such massive support. And East Dorset Rugby Football Club, they've been helping me. And I said to the boys, you've lost a daddy, but you've gained about 30 big-built daddies, so don't worry, you're going to be looked after.
But also they can always be immensely proud of him and for what he did.
Absolutely.
And he'd be so proud of you.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes, those unbearably dark places, you desperately have to have someone that you can talk to.
I've done this because it shows people that this is the end result of what your family are going to be feeling. It is incredibly painful for me to do this, but because, like you said before, I want to save a life. I want to help people and say it's OK not to be OK. Lives matter.
And you also, in those rigid, regimented circumstances, you have to be able to say, I'm not OK.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
The Minister for Defence, People and Veterans, Johnny Mercer, has said, despite the tragic circumstances, I have had the pleasure of meeting Alicia, and I would like to commend her for her bravery in taking this issue forward. I'm determined to tackle this issue, and I've instructed my team at the MOD to look at every single case to ascertain whether we could or should have done more so we can learn lessons and put an end to this situation. There is a range of help available, and I'm determined to do all that I can to make sure that veterans know where they can turn to in times of need.
Thank you.
Love to your family as well.
Thank you, and thank you to all our servicemen and women here all over the world, whether you're serving now, whether you're veterans. Thank you.